The following episode can be viewed on the YouTube channel Bernie or Bust Television.
Good morning, USA, and welcome to another episode of the Bernie or Bust Show. All right, Busters, we better put on our seatbelts. The ride may get bumpy. Lee Camp is here to tell us how it's all going to go down, and it sounds plausible to me.
So let's assume he goes into the convention with a plurality, 1,700, 1,800 delegates, but not a majority. At that point, what the DNC, what the Democratic establishment, what these fucking snakes and oligarchs and goddamn jackals will do is they will take probably the next two people, or Bloomberg and someone, because he's got unlimited resources. They'll take Bloomberg and let's say Warren or Klobuchar, and they'll say, here it is. This is your president and your vice presidential candidates.
Or Hillary. It might be Hillary. It'll be a woman. It'll probably be Bloomberg and Hillary or Warren or Klobuchar.
Bloomberg and Warren, and they'll group together all of those delegates. Then they'll add on the super delegates, which is the Democratic establishment, which fucking hate Bernie Sanders. I mean, they just hate anything that is even it's a slightly progressive. If you want a dying person to have health care, then you're a fucking socialist, and they hate all that. So they'll add on the super delegates, add on the delegates that come from putting a Warren Bloomberg ticket or whatever, and then add on delegates from some of the other people, Buttigieg, et cetera, and they'll get a big pile of delegates. That is enough to put their people as the Democratic nominee. Now, will that infuriate people? Absolutely. Will the fact that Bernie Sanders went in the convention having won almost every contest and still not be given the nomination infuriate millions of Democrats and progressives? Absolutely. But they don't care, first of all. And secondly, they'll probably lay down some reason that they had to do it. They'll probably say Bernie Sanders is a Russian agent or whatever the fuck. They'll give some reason that it had to happen. And you can go through all these numbers and look at them yourself. I'll put the link in the description. But there's really only two ways to stop this fucking horror show, to stop the DNC, the oligarchs, the establishment from putting in their candidate that will promote endless war and endless Wall Street greed and endless exploitation and the destruction of our environment. There's really only two ways, and both of them involve getting very active. One is for Bernie Sanders to win in a way that is beyond what all fraud can stop, beyond what anybody expected, so that he doesn't just walk out of these states with a couple of delegates. He walks out of these states having trounced the opposition, and he goes into the convention with 50% of the delegates, and it's too late. They don't have a way to stop him at that point. The second thing to do, if that doesn't happen, is be prepared to get very active at this convention in Milwaukee. Be prepared to stand up and fight back and demand some sort of legitimate primary election. The ruling elite will not cede power easily, all right? They're not going to sit back and go, oh, look, this is what the people wanted. I didn't realize. Hey, did you see this? The people want to be treated right. I wasn't paying attention. I didn't realize. Yeah, let's let them go ahead and do that. That's cool. No, that's not how it works. And those of us who speak out against this are going to be tarred and feathered. We're going to be called all kinds of names. I don't know what I'm going to be called next time. A Russian asset. I think I've been called a Syrian asset. I'm a Palestinian asset. At least it's good to have everybody talking about my ass. That I kind of like. A couple of other quick points. The reason they're going to keep all of these candidates in the election the entire time, even if they're getting trounced, I bet you'll see most of these candidates stay in the election. And the reason is because they want to save their delegates so that they can amass them when they get to the convention in order to defeat Bernie Sanders. The second thing is that if it ends up being Bloomberg versus Donald Trump, then that means you've already lost. We, the American people, already fucked. It's oligarch versus oligarch. It's billionaire New Yorker versus billionaire New Yorker. It is Wall Street versus Wall Street, all right? They win no matter what. They win whether Bloomberg gets it or Donald Trump gets it. It doesn't fucking matter. It is billionaire versus billionaire, money versus money, exploitation of the American working class versus exploitation of the American working class. Either way you go, they've already won. This is a long fight. We better get ready.
Here's Michael Figueredo's point of view.
What happens if going into this convention, Bernie Sanders has a really great case for himself as the nominee? He has the most delegates, he has a plurality, he won the most votes, and he doesn't get the nomination. It's taken from him and given to someone else, like Pete Buttigieg or Amy Klobuchar. Will his supporters react in the same way that they react now online? How are they going to take that? Let me just say this. You shouldn't be worried with the way that Sanders supporters will react if the nomination is literally stolen from him. You should be worried that our democracy dies officially in the event that happens. That should be your primary concern. But the way that they talk about this is as if it's going to be a certainty, that they're just going to take it from Bernie Sanders. And look, as it stands now, there's no guarantee that there won't be a contested convention because it doesn't necessarily seem like anyone will win outright. I hope Bernie Sanders gets a majority. But if going into the convention, he has a plurality and he doesn't become the nominee, and you're really curious about how we're going to react, just know that you don't want to find out. Because not only will Donald Trump be guaranteed a victory, the Democratic Party will be dead. Dead. Generations, millennials and Zoomers, and probably some Gen Xers will never vote for another Democrat again. It will destroy the fucking party. And on top of that, imagine hundreds of thousands of people, not just at the convention, but in cities across the country, protesting outright theft. I mean, the fact that they're not talking about this cautiously and, explicitly and unequivocally saying this wouldn't be acceptable, I mean, it's mind-boggling. You honestly believe that we're just going to be okay with you stealing the nomination if we work really hard and you just take it from us?
But there's a better answer. Piling into the streets is probably what's going to happen. Let's just do the Nate Silver approach and say, the odds are, and let's just make up something. Let's say the odds are 85% that they intend not to give Bernie the nomination. It's very easy to do, as Lee pointed out earlier in the same video I just showed you a minute ago. It's very easy to do. It's very easy to take the delegates and pile them up against Bernie if he doesn't come in with a majority. The odds are that he'll come in with a plurality, according to Nate Silver, and not a majority. And so even though it's a long shot, if Bernie or bust doesn't solve the problem and we don't get Bernie a majority of votes, then the answer is going to be people piling into the streets. And who knows how that'll turn out. So if you're just making up odds, let's say it's 85% certain that Bernie won't be given the nomination. Now, how do we even up those odds? And since we're just making up shit, let's say that 10 million people see this video. Ha ha ha. But let's just say 10 million people see this video and believe what it says, and they say, you're right, we've got to unrig this thing, and there's only one way to do it, short of piling into the street. And the way to do it is Bernie or bust. So we get 10 million new Bernie or bust pledges. Then what happens? I think that could do it. I think that could give Bernie the 50% plus one that he needs. So then we could see this headline. 10 million signed Bernie or bust pledge in a single day. Establishment freaks out. BernieOrBust2020.us. And this hypothetical article. Let's read further. Every time they fuck with us, someone new signs the pledge and doubles their monthly recurring campaign contribution to Bernie Sanders. Sign the 2020 pledge. So even after 10 million signed, we can have 10 million more. All they have to do is click on this link and sign, and then share this article and this video with other people who also want to sign. Examples of fuckery. Somebody called Bernie supporters digital brown shirts. If you don't believe me, click on this link. I'll link to this hypothetical article in the information section below. Pete pivots on Medicare for All. He was for it in April 2019. Now he's against it in October 2019. What changed his mind? Pete Buttigieg has accepted $1,783,000 from healthcare industry, $1,779,000 from lawyers, lobbyists, $1,312,000 from Wall Street, $920,000 from real estate, $503,000 from internet providers, $159,000 from oil gas industry, $16,000 from labor, which means Labor Party bosses and not actual rank and file labor. Who's Pete fighting for? Good question. Here's an article that's from January. DNC members discuss rules change to stop Sanders at convention. It's not likely that they'll get the rules changed before the convention and let the superdelegates wade in and stop Bernie in the first round. And they don't even have to do that. According to Nate Silver, it's very likely that Bernie won't get a majority. He'll only have a plurality. So we've got just a big old mess waiting to happen. Here's Biden attacking Bernie. He's never gotten anything done. Watch Kyle Kulinski talk about that. DNC sycophants shame online Bernie supporters. We've got a lot of this happening. The Bernie Bros narrative is coming from everywhere. Benjamin Dixon responds to Cassandra. Cassandra says, "If you're a Bernie supporter, you should be forced to sign a pledge saying you're going to vote for the Democratic candidate, even if it's not Bernie, before you're allowed to use any form of social media." Cassandra and Mussolini. Maybe Mussolini is Cassandra's long-lost uncle. Benjamin responds, "Let Michael Bloomberg become the nominee and watch me lay in the bed on election day like it was summer vacation." Yep. Some Bernie Sanders supporters will vote directly for Donald Trump. And if they live in swing states, then you can guarantee that or bust is or bust. Bernie bros and sisters tell the truth about Bloomberg. So we've got The Hill, we've got Crystal Ball telling the truth about Bloomberg. We've got everyone else on the left telling the truth about Bloomberg, not just Ben Dixon, although he seemed to start the snowball rolling. A list of things Michael Bloomberg actually said about fat people, rape, George W. Bush, and J-Lo. To call Michael Bloomberg's campaign for the Democratic presidential nomination unorthodox would be, we assume, a stretch of the imagination. That's Mother Jones. Breaking: Mike Bloomberg wants Hillary Clinton as his running mate. Bloomberg bites back. The DNC and its online vote blue no matter who cronies are losing their shit. We simply recruit a vast army of Bernie or busters. Please share the Bernie or bust pledge with everyone you know. The people will not be denied. Right now, we have more than 50,000, but if we had 10 million, I think we could undo all the problems that are being described here. In this Medium article, we've got the Politico article about rules changes. We've got Tim Black talking about the new Bloomberg ad that goes after Bernie supporters. Let's watch that for a second. Maybe that'll get an extra few million pledges signing the Bernie or Bust 2020.us pledge.
It is vitally important for those of us who hold different views to be able to engage in a civil discourse.
Wow. Yeah, I'll text Mike.
That's right. Michael Bloomberg decided the best way to deal with Bernie Sanders, asking questions, raising the issues about his actual record by going, "Hey, look over there. There's a squirrel over there running around. That stupid squirrel." This entire ad is a deflection from the real issues of Michael Bloomberg. Nothing, no substance at all, and no substantive real critiques of Bernie Sanders. So let me get this right. Bernie Sanders.
And this is what the media are doing too. The media are trying to deflect us. If you see, it's the New York Times, it's the Washington Post, it's all the usual, CNN, all the usual suspects trying to distract us from the issues and make us think about the Bernie bros and Bernie sisters and their need to have us watch our tone. And why do they do that? Here's another good word for Caitlin Johnstone. Propagandists cry about Bernie's online base because it's effective, not because it's mean. Sometimes it feels like the only news stories over the last 5 years have been about mean tweets. Trump's mean tweets, Sanders supporters' mean tweets. Some days it's all the headlines ever want to talk about. You'd hardly know humanity is on the precipice of extinction on multiple fronts. If you are the sort of person who believed that the Bernie bro talking point would vanish after statistics showed the narrative of Sanders' base consisting mostly of entitled white men to be completely false, then you are probably the sort of person who is often wrong about things. Whether the headlines are about an MSNBC host comparing burners on Twitter to literal Nazi brown shirts, Meghan McCain bashing Sanders and then calling his supporters nasty and cruel for responding, or a Nevada culinary union dishonestly smearing Sanders on healthcare and then shrieking about being viciously attacked by online criticism, this garment rending over angry Bernie bros remains more popular than ever. Which, as we've discussed previously, is ridiculous. Acting like a few angry social media comments are in any way an inappropriate response to a millionaire narrative manager passive-aggressively sabotaging people's attempts to fight crushing domestic austerity and create a working healthcare system for themselves is cartoonish drama queenery, and anyone who does this should be mocked by the entire world. And then she goes on to make fun of the individuals who are taking part in this queenery, buffoonery, etc., etc. Bill de Blasio is pointing out the hypocrisy of Michael Bloomberg. Kyle Kulinski is pointing out how Biden is trying to pile on. It all plays right into the plan to deny Bernie the nomination. So if you want to fight back against all this Bernie bro bashing is bad. If you want to fight back, then please share this episode broadly. Share the article that's linked in the information section below. Share on Twitter, share on Facebook, share on Reddit, share everywhere, Instagram, wherever you can, TikTok, everywhere. And get this message out. We need to fight back before blood is spilled in Milwaukee. Get on board the Bernie or Bust train. Come get on board the Bernie or Bust train. Once you hear that clickety-clack, there ain't no time for turning back. Go get on board the Bernie or Bust train.
The preceding episode can be viewed on the YouTube channel Bernie or Bust Television.